Angie Dickinson is a former television star who rose to prominence playing the titular character on the 1970s action series Policewoman. Angie was married to singer Burt Bacharach at the time, and the two had a child together during their marriage who was born 3 months prematurely. Thankfully, this child managed to survive, but she started showing signs of serious mental and physical health problems early on. With the stress of raising their daughter as a contributing factor, Angie and Burt ended up divorcing. Many years later, their daughter ended up taking her own life. Join Facts First as we explore why Angie Dickinson remains haunted by the daughter who destroyed her marriage. The rise of Angie Dickinson. Angie Dickinson was born September of 1931 and took an interest in performing at an early age. In the 1950s, she made her debut in the entertainment industry with a minor role on the show The Colgate Comedy Hour. Angie married her college sweetheart in 1952 named Gene Dickinson. He was a star football player at Glendale College, and Angie thought they'd be together forever. Sadly, they divorced by the time the 50s were over. The actress kept her first husband's name and made a name for herself in Hollywood with roles in features like Rio Bravo. She became not only known for her talents, but also her looks. She also made waves with her socializing. She could be seen fraternizing with notorious womenizers like Frank Sinatra and John F. Kennedy. Angie Dickinson meets Burt Bacharach. While Frank Sinatra and John F. Kennedy likely managed to get their paws on Angie while she was still trying to make it, it was Burt Bacharach who managed to seal the deal with the actress and make her his wife. Angie and Burt tied the knot in 1965 and went on to welcome their first and only child together a year later. Angie and Burt seemed to have loved each other a great deal and were happily expecting the birth of their first child, but fate got in the way. Doctors determined Angie's pregnancy was risky and advised the actress to rest in bed for its duration. Sadly, she didn't take this advice to heart. As a result, she got an infection that caused her water to break 3 months before her due date. Their daughter was born prematurely. When Angie and Burt's daughter was born prematurely, she weighed just a little under 2 pounds. Understandably, the two celebrities didn't think their newborn child was going to make it. But when their daughter started showing signs that her weight was gradually gaining, the couple began to wonder if things might turn out okay. Miraculously, their daughter survived the traumatic early birth. Their daughter was named Nikki, and the two celebs watched anxiously as she began to grow in size. They celebrated every time the premature baby gained a pound. She remained in an incubator for about 3 months, which is how long she would have stayed inside Angie. After 3 months in the incubator in the hospital, Nikki was finally deemed healthy enough to be taken home. At that point, she had increased in weight enough that she was now a much healthier 5 pounds. Nikki started showing troubling signs with regards to her mental and physical health. As she grew older, these concerns grew more severe. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. And stick around for more about Angie Dickinson and Burt Bacharach. Nikki begins showing some troubling signs. Before Nikki Bacharach was even a year old, she started showing signs her health wasn't quite up to snuff. The first of these concerns was an eye condition called strabismus that she was diagnosed with during infancy. This diagnosis affected her for the rest of her life and prevented her from going into the career field of her choice. According to Angie, Nikki didn't utter her first words until she was 3. However, while this was certainly an indication that the child wasn't developing properly, Nikki ended up excelling at a young age in other areas like music. Nikki's musical talents. Nikki proved herself to be quite the musical prodigy at a young age. In addition to her talents for playing piano, she was also said to have been talented at ballet and gymnastics. Nikki's parents claim she was proficient at piano by age 4. As a result of her special needs, her parents chose to enroll her in an experimental school when it was time to start her education. This was known as the UCLA Lab School and specialized in educating kids with unique disabilities. Despite this, Nikki found herself being bullied at school by her peers. This likely exacerbated her growing emotional issues. A lack of coping skills. As Nikki grew into her older childhood years, her problems only became worse. Her lack of coping skills made it so she could often be found lashing out by kicking the wall or tearing pages out of books. Angie and Burt's first instinct with these troubling signs was to turn to psychiatry, but psychiatrists at the time found themselves at a loss when trying to pinpoint what the young girl's problem exactly was. It wasn't until later that Angie stumbled on a magazine article that suggested perhaps Nikki suffered from Asperger's syndrome. By that point, Nikki had been living in an insane asylum for a decade. Confined to a mental institution for 10 years. Angie and Burt ended up having their daughter confined to a mental institution when it became apparent they couldn't control her. Nikki stayed there for 10 years before her mother decided to take her out and give her a second shot at a normal life. Angie's aforementioned realization that her daughter suffered from Asperger's occurred in the year 2000, and it was after this that Angie educated herself on the condition and began to feel she may be equipped enough to handle taking care of her daughter. Nikki was released into Angie's care, and Angie made a pact she'd finally give her daughter the care she needed. Sadly, things for Nikki got worse when she came back to live with her mother. In 2007, things finally came to a head when Nikki took her own life. She was 40 years old, and both parents were devastated. Angie and Burt's divorce. Angie and Burt had tried to make things work after Nikki's birth, and they did so for several years. But the trauma of trying to raise a mentally ill daughter caused their marriage to eventually fall apart. They separated during the mid-70s. They continued living together for a little while and remained married while seeing other people. This lasted for about 5 years, and their reasoning was that they were unsure of whether they truly wanted to divorce. Eventually, they finalized their separation. The two were officially divorced in 1981, and Burt has gone on to remarry twice. He married Carol Bayer Sager in 1982, and they remained married until 1991. In 1993, he married a woman named Jane Hansen, and the couple is still together. Angie and Burt live on through the pain. Burt Bacharach has had 4 spouses altogether, while Angie has had 2. In contrast to Burt, Angie has chosen not to remarry in the wake of their separation. By the time Nikki passed away, Angie and Burt had long since ceased the majority of their communications. Today, both celebs are still alive, with Angie at 90 and Burt at 93. Now it's time to hear from you. Which part of this story was the most shocking to hear about? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.